right? Let's see whether the SamAdeyemi is already in the house. He's always on time, ever, always on time, never late. All right, so let me see whether I can bring the SamAdeyemi on board. All right. He's connecting. Oh, wow.
Hello, FD.
This is a dream come true for many of the people who are steady guests of Lead with FD. Every month they've been asking, fella, SamAdeyemi, when are you bringing him? SamAdeyemi, I said, I'm coming. I'm bringing him. I am hidden in his itinerary where we found the dates. He's coming in December.
Yay!
Oh, this is
wow.
joy. How are you, sir?
Very well, thank you. I'm excited to be here too. You know that my dear wife Nick and myself love you and Tara dearly. We appreciate you. We love the great work you're doing. Both of you are investing massively in people's lives, and that's what life is about. That's what success is about. That's what leadership is about. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the kind words. And you know, we cannot but just appreciate what you and my dear big sis, and you know, I always like to quickly farms. You know, I there's no time that I will farms well. You know, I always like to say that to everybody's hearing that Pastor Nike's father, Professor Ogumola, was my father's best man at his wedding. And my father was Pastor Nike's father's best man at their wedding. So, I mean, I like to think of it, and she's my sister, she's my blood, and I really want to say, look, God bless you both for what you've been doing. Amen. You've not only raised a generation by role modeling, but you've also mentored and you've coached and you've taught. And you've shown what true leadership can be. And both of you have done amazingly well. I guess maybe it's the reason why our generation is so excited. And even the future, we know with your recent Future Award, congratulations on that. I'm going to be reading that as part of the thing. But we usually have this thing where we get people to, sorry about that, we get our guests to essentially just dance, okay? And so I want you to just, I got a song for you that I was sure was one you would enjoy. Okay, considering that, I'm sorry, I'm actually sweating. I'm trying to get, where's my remote control for my air conditioner? I will get that now. And then this thing is just, you know how it is, like they say, sometimes the day that you need something to happen is the day that the thing, you can't explain why. Know that and I presume that it's probably still, I'm not sure, but that for many years Simi and her mom have been members of Daystar. You have mentored and guided them as you know, and played the role of a spiritual father, and in a way she's just one of the many shining lights that have come from the galaxy of the Daystar, you know, and we thank God for what you've done in raising just a constellation of stars, really, that shine not only the light of God's gospel, but you know, the gospel, but also just shine light across. So it is great to have you on Lead with FD today.
Thank you, and thank you for the song.
You have to give me a moment. I need to sort something out, otherwise I'm going to melt right before you here. Just give me a All right, we're good. Okay.
Good.
Fantastic. And there's so many people saying thank you. Paul Adeyemi is saying thank you, sir, for raising role models. There's so many people, so many comments, everyone being very, very, very grateful for the work that you've done so far. I will be reading out your profile, not like as if you need any introduction, to be honest, but I will be reading out your profile because, yes, we do have people from all over the world, and some of them might still be meeting the SamAdeyemi for the first time. And so it is my joy to introduce to some and to present to most the senior pastor of Daystar Christian Center and also the founder of the SamAdeyemi GLC, which is a global leadership consultancy with specialist insight on developing economies. Dr. SamAdeyemi recently became a member of the Forbes Coaches Council, a fee-based organization comprising of leading business and career coaches. And following his appointment, a profile of SamAdeyemi was also published on Forbes' website, describing him as having trained thousands of people in leadership for more than 2 decades. As a global conference speaker, SamAdeyemi has addressed audiences in the United States, Canada, Germany, United Kingdom, South Africa. I think that it will be almost impossible for us to call out all the countries because then we literally would have just gotten the list from the United Nations of all the nations on earth. I'm not sure how many of them you haven't spoken at, either remotely online or directly. Right. In 2015 and 17, he spoke at the Global Leadership Summit, a global conference attended by over 40,000 leaders all across from 130 countries. SamAdeyemi also founded the Daystar Leadership Academy in January 2002. Daystar Leadership Academy is a not-for-profit leadership and management development school with a vision to raise exceptional leaders and managers that will transform the world. Because of his impact and contribution to the development and growth of young people, SamAdeyemi recently won the Future Award Africa Prize for the Person of the Year 2020 for his service to young people. He holds a master's degree in leadership studies from University of Exeter in the United Kingdom and a doctorate in strategic leadership from Regent University, Virginia, USA. He is a member of the International Leadership Association and the Association of Talent Developers. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome once again onto Speak for Gold onto Lead with FD for the last session for this year, Dr. SamAdeyemi.
Thank you very much, FD.
Thank
you for all the compliments.
All right, so let's jump right into it. And I think we have a standard question that we always ask as our first question on Lead with FD, and that is, we all know that every time we talk about leadership, everybody seems to say, well, that's the problem of Africa, that's the problem. In fact, to a large extent, now the world is saying, look, there's much of the crisis that is going on around the world is actually a leadership crisis. So it's not even just about Africa or any of those things anymore. It's really just the fact that we do have a leadership crisis. If something is that much of an issue, and a perennial issue for that matter, how be it that we then don't seem to have been able to solve it? What is leadership? What is leadership? Well, what is so complicated about this concept that everybody can seem to not get it right, that will cause the whole world to be trying to figure out how to go about it? What is leadership? Would you please help us? Because for someone who has been, for somebody who has been a leadership expert for all of this time, I mean, you've trained for years. What's so complicated about understanding leadership? Tell us. What is it?
Thank you. Thank you, FD. I mean, that's the real big question, isn't it? And that's part of why I decided actually to actually go into the academic part of leadership and try to find out. And then you find out, okay, so people have been trying to define leadership for a long time. You have so many definitions. Okay, and of course, by the time you get into academia, then you have the big words coming and the deep, definitions. But candidly, leadership is simply about being able to influence one or more people to achieve worthwhile goals. It's my simple definition. Okay?
Come on, guys, I need you to please help me put that down. Being able to influence one or more people to achieve worthwhile goals.
Exactly. See, for a long time, the definition was done by the elite. And they played on the general understanding that everybody had, that most of us, only few people are born to lead. Everybody else is born to follow. And everybody bought into that. You know, that leaders are born and few people are born, you know, to lead. And, you know, powerful philosophers like Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, they pushed that idea too. But with time, as they got to clearly define the qualities that define a leader, they then discovered everybody can have these qualities. In fact, the average person has some already. And then we realize not as complicated as that. So I tell people, if when you were a child, you persuaded your friend to go with you to buy sweets, you led your friend.
That's it.
Yeah, it's as simple as that. And then you just expand that.
Which is very interesting, because what you're doing is really just is helping us to understand that the fact that you are a leader doesn't mean you can't follow. And the fact that you follow someone on, you know, in a cause, on a noble cause, doesn't mean you can't lead at the same time. You know, so leadership and followership are not really polar ends of each other, is it?
Thank you. Actually, the seed for leadership is inside the followership. I think that's part of why it's been complicated for us to define it, because when you accurately define it, you empower practically everybody. Then it becomes difficult for those who have only leveraged positions and titles to influence people. It becomes difficult for them. A leader is what you call in Latin primus inter pares, is first among equals. So if you would come, for example, for the religious ones that believe in the Bible, when God said, let us make man in our own image and let them have dominion, that was true for everybody. So if everybody is supposed to have dominion, then who's supposed to follow who? And we have to celebrate each person's qualities, each person's innate quality. Each person has intrinsic value that is powerful. And what we then need to do is, when we are trying to achieve a goal that needs somebody's expertise or talents or gifts, then the rest of us should come follow there. That's how we're going to make the world beautiful. All of us are leaders.
I think that it's also interesting that, at least even just looking through the scriptures, that it was like, I think, you know, it was very noteworthy that Jesus had to kind of like clear the air on leadership. And one of the things that he did was not just define leadership, but define it as what it is not. And that was very powerful, that it wasn't enough for him. He knew the confusion that was on ground. So he had to say, listen, this whole leadership thing, forget this thing that this, and he used the word at that time, Gentiles, you know, meaning those who are not of the kingdom, the way they have come. And he then said they come to rule over. And I think that, you know, one of the things that a lot of people, well, like you said, once defined dominion as the rulership, but forgot that rulership man was never embedded in the rulership or dominion mandate of man.
Right.
Man was supposed to rule over the fish, over the cattle, over the you know, livestock. Man was not in that mandate.
Thank you. Mutual submission was the design. Mutual submission is the design. So you see how we carried that old structure, that domineering or dominating structure, into marriage, and misunderstood what Paul the Apostle was teaching on marriage. And then you enjoy, in the space of just a few verses, he says, submit to one another. Then he says, women, submit to your husbands. Then we were blind to that first one, and then just held on to the second one. The woman must submit to what of the one where he says submit to one another? We see. So yes, we're to dominate over things. But when it comes to human beings, we're to submit to one another. So you see what Jesus did, like you were saying, he inverted the pyramid because we designed it into a pyramid. The masses are at the base, and then just a few people are at the top. And then Jesus comes and says, he just turns it upside down. So any of you that wants to be the leader, let him be the servant.
And the servant of all.
Servant of all.
Which then puts into a different context this issue about public service. We will get there towards the end. Because I think that sometimes when we think of public service or the word minister, we forget that the word minister means to serve and the servant. And so if you're a minister of education, you're supposed to serve everyone in the area of education, not to be the big boss of education. You know, I mean, it's going to be incredible. But let me look at your leadership journey. Based on your definition of leadership as the capacity to be able to influence one or more on a notable cause, when would you say that you realized that you were a leader, and what were the things that caused you to know? You know, did you ever have a moment in your life when you realized this leadership thing, this is what I am? Can you tell us a bit about your leadership journey?
Yes, please. Thank you. So, like I said, from our basic definition, everybody will realize they've been leading, consciously or unconsciously. But then the epiphany, the turning point for me was after my youth service. I was serving as youth pastor for my church, Rema Chapel in Ilori. And we had this elderly reverend. You know, he was a principal for the Bible school established by our church. So he called me one day and said, look, there's something special about you, and I'm not sure if you know. Go and read this book. So he gave me a book to read on leadership. It was the first book that I read on leadership. Okay, Learning Christian Leadership by Donald S. Altman.
Wow. Somebody has to help me put that out there, please. Because I'm sure there are a lot of people who will run to go and read that book and say, whatever SamAdeyemi learned, I want to learn it. Right? So it's
exactly
Learning Christian Leadership.
Learning Christian Leadership by Donald S. Altman. Altman is A-U-L-T-M-A-N. Now, this experience was 30 years ago, but the book is available on Amazon. So what happened was that the author debunked those old ideas. In fact, it was in that book that I saw that leadership had been defined as being for a few and everybody else to follow. And he said, no, it's not true. That when God gave dominion to man, he gave it to everybody. He listed some of the qualities of a leader, about 30 of them, and said, whoever you are that is reading this book, look through these qualities. Don't you have some of them already? You have some of them already. So you are a leader. You have the qualities of a leader already. Then he said, the ones you don't have, he said, you can cultivate them. Honestly. Up until that time, I had the tendency to diminish my abilities as a leader, essentially because of my introversion. I'm an introvert, quiet. If you found me in a group, you asked somebody to volunteer to lead the group, I would be the last person to offer myself. I did not think leadership was for quiet people like myself. And then I looked at the qualities of leadership and I saw that I had some of them. So my self-esteem soared. And then I had the objective, develop the others. Now remember, the copy of the book I was loaned was an old copy. I wrote down all the major points in that book in a notebook that I have till today. The book was an explosion for me. It was like, what? Okay. So, and as I began to develop those qualities consciously, I just literally soared. That's it. Just because those qualities were there already, I just brought out what was inside. If an introvert can bring out what is inside, they're usually powerful anyway. All right. So that's how I realized, okay, I'm a leader, and if I am, then let's go for it.
Well, and you know, there's something very interesting about what we've seen. It's almost like over the last decade or so, we've seen what seemed like this shift from people considering this almighty, extroverted, power, domineering, huge. All leaders were supposedly supposed to be tall, big baritone, and all of a sudden we started to see the emergence of this more genteel, humane, empathetic leaders that started to emerge more into greater levels of prominence across the corporate sector, across you know, whether it's religion, whether it's across nations. And you started to see that people were connecting better with leaders that were more empathetic, leaders who didn't necessarily want the position, who were not trying to come out to suppress others. And all of a sudden, like Tara always says, I mean, it's amazing. Reverend Sam, you have to allow me to. Is your little Tara that says it. She says, she says to me, humility is sexy.
I like that. I like that.
She says, look, she says more people don't. Humility is very sexy. And all of a sudden, people are now drawn to this, you know, understated, unassuming, you know, somebody who's not trying to project themselves. People find them more comfortable to follow. They find them more relatable. They find them more humane. And so you realize that the world started to change. And even abroad, you see, of course, you know, I'm not trying to get into the politics of the United States here, but you see here someone like a Barack Obama who comes in and is not trying to be dominant, domineering, and all of that. And without office, still year on year has been voted the most liked human being for whatever the reasons are. But it just goes to push this thing. So it takes me to this next level, which is talking about the unique, what I would call your unique success philosophy of what it takes to be a leader. Of all those 30 principles that you learned from that book, which ones do you think that are almost indispensable to anyone who is going to, whose leadership will come to the forefront? You know, which ones did you find to be the ones you love?
Well, I'll tell you, I can give you just one. Just one that sums up everything else, and it's the word love.
Oh, wow.
So now, going by what you said, Tara said, you would observe
Reverend
that...
Sam, you did, Reverend Sam, no, sir, that is as if you are checking, fella, you are the one that said Sarah said so. I didn't hear her say so. You said Tara said.
Right?
That is tact at a supreme level. Not going by what
She's
Tara
my
said.
sis. I'm sure you know.
Not going by what Tara said. Going by what you said, Tara said.
Right.
Please go ahead.
So the point is that the most powerful qualities are soft, so to speak. There's like humility. Why I like that statement, humility is sexy, is because humility on its own, that word is not attractive to people. So I like, so when you say humility is sexy, that's fantastic to me. That's a killer point. So that makes it attractive. So when you state those words, humility, kindness, you know, self-control, and the foundation for all of them is love. I just wonder why we find it difficult to use the love word right now in practical life, in the workplace. That love is it. So we use other words for it now, like empathy, you know, so that's fine. But so when they asked Jesus Christ, which is the greatest of all the commandments, what did he say? He said love. For you to, when you genuinely care for someone, you will not deal with the person with arrogance. When you genuinely care for someone, you will restrain yourself. Even when you feel like doing something that will hurt the person, you will restrain yourself from doing it because you don't want to hurt them. Now that's self-control. You will be generous towards them. You will observe the gaps between their reality and their potential. Okay, love will help you to recognize somebody's value, somebody's worth. And then when you spot the gap between what they truly deserve and what they have, love will move you to bridge that gap. That's what makes you generous.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
So that genuine care for a human being and the desire to improve the human being's condition, that is what will drive you to go learn a skill so that you can solve problems for them, to go learn to be a doctor or to be a lawyer so that you can solve specific problems for them, or to do learn fashion designing so you can cover their nakedness, or learn how to cook food so you can make sure they don't get to bed hungry, or learn, in fact, you go make money so that you can give them money. You see that? So the two basic foundations for leadership, character and competence. It is love that drives both for a leader.
Oh, wow. But I love where you've ended this, which is this whole character and competence. Because I think that many times people think that leadership is one or the other. That it's either, yes, I mean, one of the ways that you would know is that most organizations do the funniest thing, isn't it? They promote somebody to become a manager and send the person on a leadership development course.
Right.
Whereas, ideally, what they should have done was to make sure that everybody goes through leadership development, and then you find those who have excelled as leaders, and then you promote them to become managers. So what we've done, it looks like, you know, it's pretty much like the kind of thing we started at the beginning, saying the world has upturned what it means to have dominion. The world definitely has upturned and what it means to have love and to care. And so a lot of times now people are saying, look, you know, if you show love in the you know, to your people, to, you know, somebody's going to be suspicious and thinking, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to, you know? So there's a lot of what I would call inherent suspicion around it's almost normal to be mean, and now people suspect you when you are not. When you are nice, people are wondering, why are you nice? Why are you? Is it because even when people offer themselves for leadership, many times people think, what are you trying to do? Even if we are all trying to solve the problem that we are all saying, and then you say, okay, you know what? Let me sacrifice myself. Somebody's going to say, so what are you trying to do? You are trying to put yourself over. So there is this inherent suspicion that people have had over the years. Now, I want to know whether you agree with this theory. I believe that the worst thing that has happened, especially to us in Africa, is that rulers called themselves leaders to us. And they turned us subjects into thinking we were followers. And so, in a way, as you know, when you and I have talked about this, you know, even in your office quite a few times, rulers subdue their subjects. Leaders serve their followers. Rulers emasculate their subjects. Leaders emancipate their followers. Rulers intimidate their subjects. Leaders inspire. So whereas one is looking to lead, the other one is looking to suppress. And those who suppressed, whether it is traditional rulers, when God wanted us to have royal fathers, but we chose to have traditional rulers. Then we went to colonial masters. Then we went to military rulers. And so we've been used to being ruled, that even now people will say, who is going to rule us, as opposed to who is going to lead us. What do you have to say about it?
Thank you. I mean, I can't agree more. I agree with you absolutely. You've nailed where we have to start from. Shift the concept of leadership in the mind of the African. The average African was born into this structure that you just designed, that you just described. Born into it. That's all we've known, that the leader is superior to the follower. The leader, our leadership structure makes the powerful very powerful and the powerless very powerless. So I say that we have a culture of learned helplessness. We were born into it. So we're comfortable with being helpless. There is something attractive about it, but let me use the word sexy about it.
AKA from Tara, quoted by Tara. According to Ferrari,
you have somebody to blame. It absorbs your responsibility. So, you see my condition? The problem is with these leaders. These are our leaders. These are our leaders. If you observe again from the biblical story of Israel in slavery and being emancipated into freedom, and then you have Moses, you know, and Moses comes and displays all this power, gets them out. As soon as they confront the first challenge, everything breaks down. Moses and Aaron brought us here, they brought us here to kill us. Why did they not leave us? Blaming leadership is the pastime of people born into the kind of a leadership culture we were born into. It makes you feel good that it is not your fault, okay? It is their fault. Blaming government, because that was all what they had always done. After every day of hard labor, blaming Pharaoh was what they had done. They just transferred that to Moses and Aaron.
Wow.
And now we have to get the average African to realize that somebody is your leader appointed into public office, especially now that we have a democracy. We're in democracies now, most African countries. For God's sake, we still have that mindset. They're your servants, for God's sake.
No, because when they came to us, don't forget, they also said to us, I will do it for you. I will give you free education. I will give you health. I will give you. They didn't say what you had to do. You don't worry. Just be who you are. Everything is going to come to you. You just be. I will do all. And of course, with that, the people, again, it just reinforces what you have described so articulately well. Learned helplessness. Now I feel nice. I actually feel great that somebody has come to promise me all the things that I want, that he will do it for me. And then when he doesn't, then I get upset and say, you know, these people, they always come and lie to us. And
exactly.
And if somebody comes and says, this is what you should do, they'll say, no, you can't say that. Don't say that in politics, because that's not what the people want to hear. So, where does this put us as a way of fixing the leadership crisis in Africa? Reverend Sam, because the question that I have for you, and I'm looking for some real wisdom here. I've been waiting for this. Is the leaders we get, are they the leaders we deserve? Or, and this is a very painful question for Africa. It is. Because if the answer is yes, then it means we should not be looking to the leader to solve the problem. We should be looking to ourselves. You know, what do you think?
Thank you. So, very powerful question here, because we have to deal with this issue from the root. I asked this question from Pastor E.A. Adeyemi years ago. It so happened that we were on the same flight from Heathrow to Baltimore, and I had been hinted by a friend who is a pastor, you know, or who was a pastor at Redeemed Christian Church of God. I knew we were going to be on the same flight. So, and when we got on the flight, then I just realized God blessed me that day, because his seat was right next to mine. So I said to him, before the plane took off, I said, sir, can I ask you questions on this flight?
Leadership class for the next 8 hours.
Oh! At 30-something thousand feet above sea level.
Nowhere for anybody to escape.
I said, sir, will I be able to ask you questions on this flight? He said, so what answer should I give you now? Should I tell you that I'm going to have a meeting or that I have an appointment? Of course, you can ask your questions. After the plane took off, then I threw that question at him. I said, sir, I'm concerned. You and I are part of the church in Nigeria. What is the role of the church? What are we supposed to do to transform Nigeria with all the churches that we have and the Christians we have? He said, well, let's just pray that we have more righteous people in Nigeria.
Wow.
He said, I will ask you a question. If a group of armed robbers had the opportunity to elect their leader, do you think they will elect a policeman? I said,
wow.
I will never forget it.
Wow.
Will they elect? I said, no. He said, that's it. So we need to change the quality of the group.
Oh my.
Honestly, that concept, I met it during my doctoral program. It is called prototypicality. If a group of people have the opportunity to choose who their leader will be, they will choose the person that best approximates the ideal person, ideal member of that group. So if armed robbers have to choose a leader, they will choose the best armed robber, the most successful armed robber, the most skillful armed robber. That is where we are. So we keep wondering, but we have some smart people in Nigeria, but how come we elect, people that are not the very best? It's because the best are not the majority, for God's sake. We will continue to choose people that approximate the average person. And that's why we will now understand why the people in leadership make sure that they keep almost everybody down at the lowest level, the largest number. They literally destroy the educational system. If you change the thinking, upgrade the thinking of the people, a lot of people in leadership now will not be there anymore. So it's a matter of survival and self-preservation to keep the citizens ignorant.
Wow.
So alternative means of education, alternative parallel means of education. Just think about it. If we go the way of brick and mortar, how long will it take us to revamp the educational system the way it is? It will cost us tens of billions or hundreds of billions of dollars. What are the alternative or parallel means of education we have today? That's where the religious centers come in. That's where the religious centers come in, and what is being said matters. Millions of people go to the religious houses. Unfortunately, a lot of the leaders in the religious centers are products of the same culture and of the same system. And as long as their thinking is limited, their members cannot rise beyond where they are.
Okay, but Reverend Sam, I was hoping that you would tell me something that would make me happier, because I'm now panicked. Because let me tell you why I said I'm panicked, and I don't know if anybody else is feeling this way. Does this mean that we are locked into a cycle of mediocrity forever? Because if we have gotten to the tipping point where the majority of the people are poor, majority of the people are illiterate, majority of the people are hungry, majority of the people, and they will continue to, almost instinctively put one who comes and dances in front of them rather than the one that tells them how we're going to solve the problem. The one who does babariri babake the guy that can, so for me, one of the things that I found out on my journey in 2019 was that people equate politics as though it were governance, and political skills and governing skills are completely different. But governing skills are not sexy politically. For you to win politics, what you do is different from, so when you're a good politician, what it takes to gather the people and get them to hail for you. Like they would say to you, in politics, don't tell people the truth, that the people don't want to hear the truth. But governance requires you to tell the people the truth. Otherwise, you're going to get into crisis. So how then do we solve it? And I'm looking more at because if a new Africa or a new Nigeria is going to emerge, we cannot expect the same people that literally brought us to where we are today. We can't expect them to be the ones that will take us out. So how do we get out of this? Please help us.
Yeah. So it's education. We have to change the mindset. And
but sorry, sir, let me just quickly interrupt you there. But can it be that when you say we have to, who is we? Because if we is still the government that is spending 7.2% of the budget on education, is that the we that is going to change this? Is it we outside the governing system that have to now accept responsibility? Please help us. Help us.
Okay, so the first thing I would say is this government system is so warped, it cannot redeem itself. Those of us outside think that everybody in government is bad. No, they're not. No. I know people in government that are better than me. I mean, whenever I try to imagine if I was in government, this is what I would do. I remember some of those people, and I know, sincerely speaking, they will do 10 times better than I would do. I was speaking to one of them, and he told me, a governor, and he told me how one day, one of his cabinet members came to him and said, oh, those of us in the cabinet were having a discussion somewhere. He said, and somebody said, Governor, I come, I saw vision. So he's, in other words, the governor will just be talking about vision. Is it vision that we want to eat? These are members of his own cabinet. These are the leaders in government in the state. So he said to me, building infrastructure is not my problem. He said, the mindset of the people is my greatest challenge here. So I'm saying that the government system itself cannot redeem itself. We have to start from us. By my own understanding, I am government. That dissociation is creating problems. That detachment, that's why the average Nigerian will steal government property, because he doesn't believe that it is his property. He has no sense of ownership in the country. Okay, he's fighting for survival and only for himself. We have to begin to open people's eyes, and it is us citizens that will exercise that power. Each person has to build their influence first. Be deliberate about building that influence. I put out a tweet some days ago, challenging people not to be hypnotized by big brands. There's just, you know, I talked about the land state of helplessness. We feel we can't do anything. Nonsense. We can do a lot. The media has been democratized. Now, you have your phone and you have social media. If you have something to say, say it. Shine your light. So the Chinese proverb says, don't curse the darkness, light the candle. The amazing thing is life doesn't struggle with darkness. When you introduce the original, how things should be, you'll be amazed how far and fast it will travel. I heard about someone that was taken from Nigeria to the US for training on counterfeit currency. And it was a global training. People were brought from all over the world. So when he was expecting them to bring fake currencies from all over the world, and for them to be taught all the characteristics of fake currency. They did not bring one. They just discussed with them the security features of all the correct original currencies, the genuine ones. So when he asked, but where are the fake currencies? They said there's no need. The more you know the genuine one, the easier it is to spot the fake.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
Those of us that know what leadership is about need to use it now. And so you ask yourself, who are the influencers now? The guys, the people in the entertainment industry have a huge role to play. We need to chat. We need to talk to them. Okay, because they have the numbers, right? Any people in the circuit that have the numbers. So some of the people in government, fine, that know the right thing we should do. But people in the business world, yeah, you and I, religious leaders, we need to use our platforms to tell people the truth. The more the truth shows up, the easier it will be for people to spot the lie.
Amazing. I love that. I love that. So this brings me to this issue around, and I've always talked about this. I've always said Nigeria does not need one great leader. Nigeria needs 200 million leaders. And that each one of us will then find and empower those who will go not on our behalf, but in a way will go so that we support. It's not, because transforming a nation will never be the responsibility of one man, whether it's president, governor, it will never be. It is us, and therefore that brings us to this concept of leadership being this thing you described, but I wanted to highlight it as a mindset of ownership. That until Nigeria is your Nigeria, you can't fix it, I can't fix it, nobody else can fix it, even to your heart, and so there is this thing about us having a sense of ownership. You ask an American, well, at least until recently, most Americans, have this patriotic sense of duty. It's my nation, I would die for my nation, what will we ever be able to do to get to a point where we see more patriotic Nigerians, more patriotic Africans, more patriotic people? And let me quickly say one thing also, sir. That patriotism, or the sense of ownership, as it were, is not even found in organizations. Very few organizations would you even find the staff that say, this is my company, this is mine. Yeah. So what do we need to do, whether it's as an organization or as a nation? I'm not sure which one you want to tackle, but what do we need to do to get the mindset of ownership into the people so that they begin to do what it is that is needed for change to happen?
Thank you. See, the truth, patriotism is born out of love for your country or love for the organization. Leaders, or in fact, should I say rulers, like to quote John F. Kennedy. Don't ask what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. And I say, shut up. The person that said it originally was the president of a country
that has done,
thank you, that has done a lot for its citizens and everybody knows all over the world that they will spend anything to go rescue just one citizen whose life is at risk.
Recently, it still happened. A few weeks ago, the United States sent a team of SEALs, Navy SEALs, to come into Kaduna to rescue one missionary, American missionary, that was kidnapped in Nigeria. We're not talking about 1960 something when John F. Kennedy said that. Even till about 4 weeks ago.
Thank you. So that's what we're talking about. Does your country love you? You are asking me to love Nigeria. Does Nigeria love me?
And the president of the US tweeted about it. The fact that they rescued one American caused him to tweet about it.
Thank you. So when people are loved, so the few organizations where people are passionate about the organization, where they are loyal to the organization, it is because they are loved. It's because they are cared for. So again, that's where we will have to take it away from people that are in government right now. Many enjoyed a lot of privileges from government and they just don't think it's worth it to extend the same to citizens. We have to take it away from them and start with ourselves as citizens. Let's start with our neighbor. Let's start with the people in our organization. For those of us that are organizational leaders, let's start by showing love. That takes me back to the issue of how to build influence. It's that love thing. Honestly, it's the person that cares for you the most that has the greatest influence on you. Wow. That's how even armed robbery gangs successfully recruit people into armed robbery. When somebody is hungry
and they go and
doesn't have food to eat, no job, if they're the ones that put the money down, what do you want to say? Then it becomes easier for the person to recruit them into armed robbery.
Or even terrorism. Or terrorism.
Even terrorism, right? Did we not hear that about Boko Haram, that they were giving soft loans to people, you know, in the Northeast? So it's that love. That's how you build your influence. Genuinely care for people. And it's not money first. Because I put something like that out on the tweet 2 days ago and somebody said, but all these things you're talking about need money. I said, no, excuse me. Somebody doesn't have a meal, doesn't have food to eat. Poverty is biting deep in the country right now. What will it cost you, even if it's only your last meal you have, to take it and give that other person? That doesn't cost money.
So does that take us to the point where we think to ourselves, you know, somebody once said to me, fella, the challenge that you find, and you know, and this was actually a minister that was speaking to, a federal appointed minister. The gentleman was a minister of health a few years ago, and I said to him, so what would you, now that you've been minister of health for a while, what's the biggest leadership lesson you've learned? I said, well, the leadership lesson I've learned is that I should never have thought that a minister of health can do anything about health in Nigeria. I said, He said, listen, nobody can. He says, look, ministers, and then he went on and started telling me, and I thought to myself, how can someone so supposedly empowered feel so belittled with the great titles and all of those things? And it brought me back to this thing, and this other example that I was going to use. A gentleman had come to me to ask me for some counsel on how best to manage a growing trend that he had noticed in his house. That, you know, it looks like as though his children, every time they were eating or they saw something, they will attack it with the sense of it will soon finish. And so if he gave them 2 biscuits each and say, this is 2 biscuits, let's keep this one. They want to try and see who is going to get to the next one. And if you know, so it's almost like as though, and he said to me, FD, my children treat our resources in the house like as if they were government property. He says they all of them want to take, use, you know. And he said, I'm watching this, I'm wondering, where is this coming from? And these are young children. So what's going on?
Wow.
They're already grabbing. They're already, and he's saying, I don't know where they got that from.
Wow.
But I guess maybe if you go back to school, now when schools are now, you know, when schools are giving, they're supposed to give biscuits to the children, and they don't have enough. Right. So every child doesn't have, and every child has to struggle to get the biscuits, or you have to struggle. Right. I don't know, but what do you think is going on?
Well, it's possible. It's the environment. The average Nigerian is put in the state where we fight for survival. It's dangerous. We honestly can't change people's mindsets without changing the economy. We can't. It's the first, we have to go for it. The economy. When you push man down to the place where he's fighting for survival, the instinct for survival is the strongest in man. He will not hear anything else. He doesn't care about the law, about the constitution, or anything. Like I tell people, somebody's drowning in a river, and then he will hold on to anything to survive. You are standing on the river bank, he's trying to hold a log of wood. You're now telling him, according to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the laws of forestry, it is illegal for you to hold that log of wood when his life is at risk. I will hold the log of wood. I want to come out alive. If you want to send me to jail, you can send me to jail, but I will survive first. That is the state where majority of Nigerians are permanently. So when you are in that state, morality, care for the other person, it's like you can preach love from today to tomorrow, but I have to survive before I love someone now. That's where we are. And that's where the schools are important. You know, that's a whole big subject on its own. We think school, we think education is just for teachers to be teaching in class. It is not. It's the whole environment. It is how they are treated in school, the dignity with which they are treated, the level of excellence in the school. Everything is hindering the child. It will come out in the country 30 years later.
Amazing, amazing. So in a way, whether we were very deliberate and intentional about it, we've touched on personal leadership. We've touched a bit on what you think of it, governmental leadership. We've talked a bit about cultural leadership. We've even started talking about family leadership we're just talking about the situations on ground. But you know, one interesting area that I want us to go, which you led to, is this issue about, you know, at least getting people out of the survival mode and getting poverty out. And one of the things I realized is that for so long we have expected government to fix poverty. But over the years, my study of every great country said to me that it wasn't great leaders in government that built those economies. It was entrepreneurs.
Right.
Yeah, so when you go and look at it, it was entrepreneurs that built the rail system of the United States, not the United States Ministry of or Department of Transport. It was entrepreneurs that built flight, the Wright brothers, and so on. It wasn't United States Department of Aviation or wherever it is. You know, it was entrepreneurs. And one of the things that I love about entrepreneurs is that entrepreneurs do 2 things that are very special. Number 1, they solve problems. And number 2, they create wealth. And in creating wealth, in the process of doing that, they realize they can't do it all by themselves. So they create also jobs. And in creating jobs, what they do is they share prosperity. And so in the end, entrepreneurs solve problems and therefore create social advancement. They do it profitably, otherwise they will not be sustainable. Therefore, they create wealth and economic advancement. Then they have job creation and therefore productivity increases. And lastly, they share because they pay salaries, they pay this and that. Therefore, they share prosperity so that we have what you call social balance. Now, can it be that entrepreneurs will be the magic wand for Nigeria, for Africa, for the black race? Because if there's something wrong with the capacity, even in the US, go to the places and you find economic activity, entrepreneurial activity at the lowest. Can it be that that is what we are missing out on? Because entrepreneurs are natural leaders. Reverend Sam, would you please talk to us about entrepreneurship and leadership and what each and every one of us can do to grow ourselves as entrepreneurial leaders?
I agree with you 100%, FD. Listen, when you have a nation of 200 million people, it's not government that will give everybody jobs. It's the entrepreneurs that create the jobs. Okay? So it's entrepreneurs that will build it. And we are entrepreneurial in nature. Nigerians, Africans, especially Nigerians, we are entrepreneurial in nature. I'll tell you what the problem is. The greatest albatross of the entrepreneur is the government. So in Africa,
so are we back into the loop again?
FD, we're back. The greatest fear of the entrepreneur in Nigeria and Africa is the guy in government. They can kill your business in 24 hours. It's just a policy. Right? They've killed. It's not that they can't. They've destroyed many because they do not have the prosperity of the citizens at heart. So this is where all of us citizens, therefore, now have to hold the guys in government accountable. You don't agree to be a slave on the outside except you are one in your mind. I celebrate the younger generation in Nigeria and Africa right now because they are demanding for things that people did not demand for before. They have tools at their disposal. They know what's going on in other parts of the world now. And you can see the reaction of the people with political power. The way they shut down the entrepreneurs is the way they are shutting down these young entrepreneurs and leaders that are trying to bring out these qualities right now. So there's no way to go about it. Anywhere in the world where there has been change, people have had to demand, or they don't give it to you on the platter of gold. People demand for it. I'll tell you what. Let's use the example of Henry Ford in the US, just to buttress your point on the entrepreneur. This guy invents the petrol engine and then begins to produce cars in the US for the first time. He's producing just a few. Only rich people could afford it. Then the guy says, this is not my vision. I want every family in America to be able to afford the car. So he produces a bland-colored, black-colored, basic one like that, the Ford Model T. Then begins to mass produce, increases production to 1,000 per day. His directors are surprised because they had said it's not possible. Who will buy it? You know what government did? The cars need roads to travel on. Government was creating the roads. The cars need petrol stations. The value chain from the creation of the car alone, at some point he could not even produce the parts alone. So some other companies were created just to produce this part, another one to produce this part. Petrol, that's why the petroleum industry exploded, the oil and gas industry exploded. But government was aiding. John D. Rockefeller with the rail stations, with the Standard Oil and so on. See government with the guys in tech. How will Nigeria produce a Mark Zuckerberg? Government will have finished him a long time. In fact, he's still struggling to pass JAMB and to finish in the university. Our governments frustrate because it's a rulership that we have. So we're back to the government thing. So anyone that wants to flourish, we have to realize this is a fight for survival, for the realization of our potential, and a fight for the future of our children and generations yet unborn. That we must get the way our governance system, the way we govern ourselves, must be restructured.
All right. So you know what, Reverend Sam, in the last 1 hour, I will tell you one of the most important things I've learned, and everybody's agreeing with you as we're going along, that until we get governance right, we are literally not really able to go anywhere. That governance is the fulcrum upon which any modern society will work. That no matter how blessed the nation is, without good governance, there is no great nation. That there is no nation that would have the capacity to be able to create an enabling environment for the business. That it will not be able to create the educational system that will grow the people. that it will not be able to create the kind of system that would lift people out of poverty, because they want. So if you have a political system that looks to suppress people, the challenge that I am facing, sir, is that I see this as, again, that thing where it is so easy, and I see a lot of comments about government is rubbish, our government is this, but the question still comes to the point, when the next election comes, what did you do? The last election, what did you do? Because it's easy to always point fingers and say it is this person and that person. And the question is, when will we ever be able to change the government? Can we only always be holding them accountable? Can we always be trying to end SARS? Will there not one day be a day that we can sustainably, rather than not just, and then we have to end SARS and all of that, but we must be able to build a police system that respects people, that has love, that the police officers love each other. Why do we give up on that and only want to continue to fight? Because the truth about it is, we have to build a nation that works. And to build a nation that works, we need the people to get involved. We can't sit down and be abusing everybody that tries to go into politics, and abuse them and tell them how useless they are. You don't do anything. You don't have a voter's card. You are not a part of a political party. You will not register. You will use your Twitter to abuse everybody who tries to go, demean them for all the work that they've done, and then expect the good ones amongst us to still rise when they've seen what you did to the good people. You suspected them. You questioned their integrity. We all complained. When one of them rose up, you said, why do you want to rise? What's wrong with you? Stay. So that we can always continue to fight and complain and say, look at them, look at what they are doing to us. Reverend Sam, will we ever be able to get a generation to arise and take responsibility and say we are the ones that are going to put the people in government, considering the fact that in the last elections, the total number of votes that the PDP and APC, the two major parties in Nigeria, were able to mobilize, monetize, and manipulate. And you know that, sir, you know that you mobilize legitimately, monetize by whatever means, and manipulate by rigging, was 26.4 million votes. Half of those 26.4 million votes were manipulated. So we are talking about the fact that these two global institutions were not even able to raise 15 million physical human beings. And yet we have, as of 2019, over 108 million Nigerians above the age of 18. And not more than 15 million of them came out. And then we look at ourselves not getting involved. And then we say we want to hold people accountable. How do we hold people we didn't put there accountable? I mean, when will we begin to hold ourselves accountable for not having voters' cards? When will we begin to hold ourselves accountable for not being the ones who volunteer our time to go and convince our friends, instead of asking somebody that, do they know you in my hometown? Reverend Sam, what is the way out? We can't, because my point is, I'm sometimes very frustrated that it's so easy for us to say the government is not working, but we won't mobilize ourselves to build the systems that will make the government work. How do we get out of this? How do we how do we bring sustainable change beyond the fight to end this or end that or end this? We have been ending SARS since 2012, Reverend Sam. We have been ending SARS since 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019. We have been ending SARS. SARS has not ended. What must we do differently, sir?
Thank you so much. So it is truth that sets free or makes free. And at this point, we must say the truth as hard as it is. We said it earlier on, okay, that irresponsibility is sweet. Irresponsibility is sweeter, okay? It's easier because you have somebody else to blame. But if you are really going to shift anything, change anything, you have to do what you can do. Responsibility is you doing what you have the capacity to do to change the situation. So that responsibility we carried over even into our spiritual lives. The things we should do, we put on God. The devil. We put on God. We say God will do it. God will do it. I tell people, Jesus Christ met a man paralyzed. Okay, he said to him, stand up, take up your bed and go home. So I tell people, if you read it like that, you don't gloss over it. Two people shared responsibility there. The one thing the man, so I tell people, God will never do for you what he's given you capacity to do for yourself. He will never. Don't even bother to pray about it. What the man could not do for himself was walk. Jesus gave him power to do that. As far as carrying his bed was concerned, he said, carry your bed yourself and go home. Where your ability stops, God will do that. So that's why God has never brought angels to build roads for us or to build airports or anything. He will never bring them. It's time for us to stand up now and to do what you can do, what we can do. Now, I like your point. We are either reactive or proactive. As long as you are reactive, you are fighting against something. They say you are opposition. You're just strengthening the position. The human mind, when you focus on the negative expands. What you focus on is what expands. So there's a sense in which we need to control the narratives and focus on the positive, focus on the building. And at that point, it comes down to us. Why don't we emphasize, okay, on responsibility and on what we can do? We have to start from there. I'll tell you why. It's easier to talk than to do. There is a gap. We are not holding the people, in fact, we're not stepping into the arena to do it because we are not practicing the right values in our own lives. Oh, wow. That's the point. Do we love people? Are we serving people? Are we adding value to people? Have you developed your skills to world class? I attended a seminar, a workshop about 2 years ago. It was organized by a young man, a politician, and he gathered young people, young politicians from the whole of the southwest of Nigeria. And it was during this campaign, this Not Too Young to Run campaign. But I listened to an elderly politician that day, and I'll never forget what he said. He said, you young people are asking us to give you permission to give you offices, share offices with you, give you room to function in politics. He said, I don't even understand what you are saying. What are you talking about? He said, we fought to get it. He said, while you are sleeping in your house, I stayed through the night. He said, I have the data of all the influencers in every society in Lagos State. And I have maps and graphs. I'm plotting who we need to talk to influence this world, who we need to talk to influence this world. You're sitting there and you're asking me to come and share the thing with you. He said, if you know you want it, come out and fight for it. Come out on the top. Okay? So I'll bring it down to here. Before you lead anybody, you need to lead yourself. So in our small spheres, what are we doing? I can come out and tell people, you need to love people as a leader, because I'm showing that love in the organizations that I run. I can say you need to serve with humility. I can say leadership is about service. Okay? That being a leader does not make you superior to the people you serve. I can say that outside because that's what I do in Daystar. That's what I do in the other organizations that I run. Okay? I can say that, and the people, those people in Daystar can support me that it is true, because that's what I do. I do not allow anybody to push them in the church because of me. A pastor is coming, push. I said, stop it. When the protocol guys did not seem to understand me, I went and spoke to the whole church. I've told the protocol guys not to push any of you. The fact that I stand on the pulpit does not make me superior to you. Our value before God is equal. In fact, I said, I know when you see a crowd in Nigeria, it means that the man of God is a powerful person. I said, it's not the same here. So I said, it is not because I'm special that you guys are here. It is because you are special. That's why I'm here. You will look at the way we're spending the money of this church. We're spending the money on you. Okay? But I tell them one thing. If we treat you with dignity here, put air conditioning in the toilets for you here, use air-conditioned buses to move you. If you become a local government chairman or commissioner and you treat Nigerians with indignity, I tell them, I will join them to come against you and we'll find a way to remove you. The way we treat you here, go and treat other people like that. So the reason why people don't have the confidence to come out is because they really don't have the values yet. They've not bought into those values yet. Each of us needs to practice self-leadership and start from where we are and then bring that out. Talk is cheap. Talk is not going to do it. We have to contest for the power. But I'll say this again. It's not as difficult as it seems. If you bring out the original, it will show the fake. We have powerful, listen, the arena is there waiting for us in Nigeria and Africa right now. The opportunities are huge for us. Step forward. You'll be amazed. Do the right thing. Serve. Let go of this greed, this craze about money, this craze for money. Let go of it. Empower enough people. You won't be hungry the rest of your life.
I mean, you know, Reverend Sam, I'm so grateful, and as I begin to bring these conversations towards a thought, I said we were going to take 1.5 hours of your time, so we've got about 15 minutes more, and I have a few issues that I wanted you to touch. One of them was really that you spoke so credibly and so loudly. You were, in fact, Sorosoke in chief during this you know, especially this last Endsars saga, as I would love to call it. Now, the point, though, is that my question is, in that time, we saw something very interesting happen. That a lot of people who were in a generation that never saw Sorosoke, right, started to talk to the generation that were Sorosoke, you know, that were speaking up to say, hey, you know, you guys, and of course, they got into the same cycle of everything that has been wrong with us. They started saying the youth should, the young people should, the young people should. And I said to them, listen, yes, they should, but what are you going to do? Because again, they found enough comfort to say, at least the young people are out there. They are the ones protesting on our behalf. Like as though SARS was not the problem of older people too. And so my point was, I realized that we needed to have a conversation around with the young people, but we also needed to talk to the older people who should be supporting, mentoring, role modeling, who should be encouraging, who should be, you know, inspiring, who should. This is not just one generation solution. It's going to take every generation getting involved. Reverend Sam, what would you say to two sets of people? Number one, the young people who feel like they came out for the first time, many of them, you know, demanding for the first time, most of them going out to a protest ground for the first time, and they almost feel like it came to nothing. What do you want to say to that generation? And then what do you want to tell to the generation that generation left at home? The generation that said to them, nothing is going to happen. You people go, you think that's what is, we have done it before. The government will not listen to you. You people will see. Now they have come back and they're almost like dying. We told you people, it has finished. You people have done Endsars. Do you understand? We need to speak to these two generations, the younger one and the older generation. What can we say to both of them, please? And I don't know whether you want to take them one by one or both at the time.
Yeah. Thank you, FD. This is so important. Maybe I should speak first to the younger generation. Yes,
please.
And it will be, we need the two generations. We need the two generations. The experience of the older generation is valid. It's just that you were not around. Or
sorry, Reverend Sam, I don't like to cut you in, but there was something that I found that the younger people did a lot that seemed to have hurt and alienated the older generation, where there was so much venom and negative talk and abuses at the older generation. They were useless. All they cared about is this. All they did is this. All they did is that. And I remember that there was a time Tara was reading out some responses by some of the older generation that was also saying, you people, you are useless. Where were you? And in the end, it was just two generations divided against themselves. So I just wanted to quickly say that, please, as you were going, and please address that also.
Thank you. Yes, the younger generation said the older generation was the off-mic generation. They did not Sorosoke and so on. But that's not exactly true. The truth is, the last time we had something as powerful as this, was in the 90s, early 90s, when an election was annulled, the free and fair election was annulled. The older generation confronted the military, not SARS, a unit of the police, a military government with maximum rulers, ruthless people. Some of the people in government right now actually ran out of the country and lived in exile for years before they could come back. Okay? But the younger people were not around then, or they were not old enough to know. So we can excuse that. Because the question for them will be, okay, I agree that they did all that, then what's the result? What do they have to show? Again, they need to know that you are not under a military regime right now. It's part of the product of that struggle. To even have something that looks like democracy, even though it's not exactly democracy, but something that looks like it, okay? But having said that, you know, your question just made me remember the David and Goliath scenario, where David comes on the scene and begins to ask, what's going on here? Who's that guy? They explain to him. He says, I'll take him out. Who is he? I'll take him out. And I want the younger generation to know that's who you are. Okay? David was not a trained fighter like them. The existing system did not solve the Goliath problem. We need fresh eyes. We need people that will come and see with fresh eyes. You guys, you were born for this. This is your season. This is your moment. It is normal for the older generation to feel like you're not even supposed to be here. You're not supposed to be here. What are you doing? That's what they did with David. Say, who are you? What are you talking about?
No, it's even amazing that, you know, Saul said to David, this is very interesting. He said, you are not able to fight this guy because you are a youth. And this guy has been fighting from when he was a youth. So you are saying that Goliath fought as a youth. Nobody stopped him. But David wants to fight as a youth. Now you are saying, no, you can't fight. Oh, you're a youth. But the Goliath has been fighting from when he was a youth. And this is exactly what it is, isn't it?
That is what's going on right now.
That is telling another generation you are too young.
You're too young.
It was the generation that produced a 44-year-old Ibrahim Babangida, a 41-year-old Muhammad Buhari, a 38-and-a-half-year-old, 38, 2 weeks before his 39th birthday, Olusegun Obasanjo, a 31-year-old. That generation that produced young leaders is telling 45, 47, 58 that you are too young. They are the sole generation.
Thank you. Thank you. You nailed it. That is the truth. The people controlling Nigeria right now started it from their 20s.
Amazing.
They started from the current structure on which that is running Nigeria was built was created in 1966 after the 2 coups. The major officers, you know, then who are they were in their 20s. Everybody are controlling Nigeria now
and say, please, I want to run for office.
We must say to the younger generation, don't buy that story.
Yes.
This is your fight.
Yes.
Listen, the older people telling you to shut up, they don't have many years left. It's your future you are fighting for and that of your children. 2, you have the God-given permission to use means that are different. That's why you have tools that older generations did not have. That phone in your hand has democratized power, democratized the media. When you have something to say now, you don't have to go beg editor of anywhere, you have to say it. It's just that you have to do it with responsibility. I would say this is important. Going by the David story, yes. The ideas coming to you may look crazy to you, but that's exactly what we need. If you do it the way we've been doing it, we will get the same results.
Wow.
So come with your crazy new ideas. However, okay, you've got to do it with character and with unparalleled level of competence. Your lack of character and your lack of competence will do you in. It will do you in. Something was said about David, Psalm 78 verse 72. And he led them by the integrity of his heart and by the skillfulness of his hand. Prayer is important. That conversation between David and Goliath shows that there is also spiritual warfare. What you are fighting against is bigger than you. Please don't forget God, younger generation. I know when we say pray, You say, but you've been praying all this. What has the prayer done? Please don't throw that away. Just add to it. What we need to tell the older generation, I agree with you, is that they don't mention that David was an expert with that catapult. And God used that expertise. The guy was incredibly good. So you've got to develop not just technical expertise, you've got to have a profession. I know they wrecked the educational system. I want you to know that system is not even useful for you. It was built during the Industrial Revolution. Times have changed. Self-education is the way to go now. There's almost nothing you can't learn on the internet. There's almost nothing you can't learn on YouTube. Train yourself. Become incredibly good in your technical area, but please add management skills and leadership skills. That has been Africa's albatross.
You know, one of the
what
things
will you do with $1 billion? Right? What will you do with $1 billion? Easy way for you to make money now, younger generation, is that technology. Don't use it, please, only for entertainment. If you want to become a Zuckerberg, you can make dollars that you will bring into Nigeria and be a superstar, okay? But not through fraud. You've seen it. The people that don't get carried away because somebody just made money and he's throwing it away and he's driving a Bugatti. They are beginning to go into jail. They don't catch them in Nigeria, they catch them abroad. Interpol is even coming to pick them in Nigeria now. Don't go down that road. You need that solid character and you need the competence. But I want to say to younger generation, it's your time. Don't stop. Don't stop. And please don't position yourself as a victim. Don't wait until they do something wrong, then you react against it. Take control of the country. Okay. Begin to build new systems, parallel systems. The older generation, I want to beg the older generation to succeed until now in Nigeria. To succeed the Nigerian way, you would have become warped by the time you became successful politically or economically. We have to repent. Just agree. There's no future for that route. The younger generation is going to trash us. We need to adjust now and support the younger generation in building a new Nigeria.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. We just have about 2 more questions to go. One of them is about looking at the younger generation, and you know, there was a real conversation around the fact that in the end, whilst it was the younger generation that did go out, the enlightened, the probably the more educated ones that went out, had peaceful protests, were the ones that swept the streets, didn't even litter, you know, as they were having those protests, making their point known. It was also young people that went and looted, but not the same people. Clearly there were, and we recognize that whilst one set of them was moved by desire for the nation, let's go, we know that there were these other people that were, you know, paid, inspired by sometimes even the power bases to go and actually do the destruction. But then in the end, there were still 2 young generations. I mean, they were the same young generation. The haves and the have-nots, in a way. And there was a conversation about the fact that until the younger generation that is enlightened, can engage the other younger generation that has brawn, but is not very brain enabled. Whereas the other one is very brilliant, but they don't have the you know, let's go and fight them. So how do we get the brain and the brawn, the brawn and the brain to begin to come together? What should the Sorosoke generation do to engage the generation of your father? How do you get both of them? Because they're in the same generation. What should young people do, sir?
Thank you. This is so powerful that you draw attention to this. It is the test of leadership for the younger generation that they have to influence their contemporaries. We are also impressed by the management skills and the leadership shown by the leaders of the peaceful protest.
Yes.
It's amazing, like you said.
And can I quickly say that there was something that I noticed that the government was trying to do. When the government started to issue a report saying that the carnage and the burning and the looting was as a result of the peaceful protest, I thought that was very, very disingenuous. I thought it was very wrong, because there were 2 separate things that happened, but they just happened at about the same time. The peaceful protest did not lead to the carnage. We know that there were people and some of them possibly even in government, who were the ones who triggered the process that led to the carnage. And now they're trying to link the two of them together and say this is as a result of this, which we know is not true. Yeah. But would you just speak to that, sir?
Well, we understand. I understand with my friends in government, it is self-preservation. I just have advice for them. The old approaches that worked will not work anymore. Honest, to be very honest, I should tell my friends in government, you would have seen almost every step you've taken from now to move against those peaceful protesters has been a mistake. It is better to change the approach. It is better to change the approach. These people mean well. Okay? Now, the younger generation, you will notice a good number of the leaders. And I must say this, take us back to the primus inter pares. We said that all of us are equal, all of us are equally leaders. These people built a fantastic structure without pushing anybody out as the controller or ruler. That they were able to submit to themselves. Yes. That's what the new Nigeria needs. The older generation kept making noise. You guys must have a visible leader. You must have a visible leader. Oh no, they needed a strategy. You know, because visible leader, the principle is there. Strike the shepherd, the sheep will be scattered. That's how to finish a movement. Just kill that visible person, you know. So they were really smart. And what I want to point out is that many of them studied outside Nigeria. They're from middle-class homes and elite homes. They went outside. Their minds are free. They came back. That's why they cannot take that brutality or that harassment or killing of young people. That's why they're speaking out. So in my view, they built a mini Nigeria there. They were cooking food. They were cooking food. They provided medical services. Security. I want to challenge them. If you want to influence those your brothers, and Nigeria has a way of labeling the people it has practically destroyed. It will either call them miscreants or bandits or terrorists or militants. We always have a way of inventing names to label them. These are Nigerians with potential to build the country. I want to tell the younger generation, you have to prove your leadership now. To influence them, please know they're from face me, I face yous. They live in homes that are practically wretched. Some of them have nowhere to live. They don't have adequate food to eat. You need to start from there. If you study the older generation very well, some people have a stronghold on the politics of Nigeria right now, and all they did was to cook food or provide water for people in the neighborhood. We had Alhaji Adeyemi, for example, in Oyo State, had the politics of the state by the jugular. A man that did not have much education. What was it? He was cooking amala. It has worked anywhere. Don't use it as a trick. Use it as genuine care for people. Jesus Christ also provided food for people, and he pulled the crowds. That's where to start from. Nobody will listen to your English or listen to your grammar or your sophisticated vision when there is hunger in the stomach. You will gain that influence by you must love these fellow young people and care for them, help them, you know, and empower them. Empowering is educating them and then helping them to have skills. Even if they did not go to school, they've got to have skills so that they can fend for themselves. Then with them, you can shift things, shift policies, and move and build the new Nigeria.
Well, I mean, Reverend Sam, I cannot thank you enough. A whole generation has been waiting for this conversation. You know, people have been calling to say, look, when did you say this thing is going to happen again? People were sending, you know, putting their reminders on. I think that I would love people to put out what they've learned today. One of the most important, I mean, because wisdom has just been flowing like a river from you, and we're grateful for that. We're grateful for how you have spoken to a generation, especially in the time of need. How you spoke calm, wisdom that kept a generation focused, encouraged, inspired through their time of their greatest leadership test. And we're still going through that. It's not over yet, you know. And I always like to say that it's not the end. You know, you have to retreat to be able to re-strategize and then, you know what you're going to do. But as we bring this to a close, I just want to have a final word from you for that one person. And that one person is, I'm looking at at the comment section. And I've been looking all through this chat. And one part of me is very happy by the things some people are learning. The other part of me is sometimes thinking, oh my God, you know, go and get, you should get involved and go and get your voter's card. They say my PVC will not work. Okay, start a business and see how you will be able to, solve a problem. They say the environment is not going to support me. Okay, get up and go and get an education. The education system is bad. Use your phone to do something, contribute. They say, who will listen to me? How many followers do I have? Reverend Sam, is there any final word that you can give to somebody who's watching today? Because we've looked at everything else. Government leadership failed. Family leadership has failed. Educational leadership has failed. Corporate leadership has failed. There is no one kobo that was ever stolen in government that did not require a collaboration with the private sector. So the private sector is not holy, as we are trying to sometimes think of public sector as the corrupt ones. There is obviously collaboration of corruption to have been able to make things happen. So when we look at it, the only place I'm looking at, when you talk about the religious institutions, even leadership from there, where you've admitted to us that, where do we go? So in the end, the one thing I've been hearing you say consistently comes to personal leadership. It's personal leadership. Values. This is the string. I was looking for the string all through the tapestry you were weaving through this conversation. And I found the one string. Everything you've touched on is about saying, listen, before you even try to lead anybody else, lead yourself. Lead yourself, lead yourself. But Reverend Sam, I can't say it as well as you can. Would you please help to speak to that person who's listening right now? And just help to just say the final word that you can to.
Right. Well, thank you, FD. Thank you so much again for this opportunity. And thank you to everyone who's joined us today. I just want to say to that person that is wondering, is it worth it actually trying? I want to say to that person, you are more powerful than you think. One thing that can disable you the most on this planet is believing that you are less than you really are. See, don't buy into popular narratives. They kill you. People create those narratives, and everybody creates narratives, to support their own interests. They have things to gain from those narratives. Don't be the person that just consumes what they're saying now, the popular thing they're saying on social media, popular thing they're saying. Stop consuming those popular narratives and think for yourself. You know why? Because power is created in the imagination. Once they succeed, whoever they are, in getting you to believe that you are powerless, you are done. You're finished. If you can imagine that you are powerful, you are. So as gloomy as you think Nigeria's scenario is, some of us are still thriving. Some of us have been able to thrive over the last several decades without the government even empowering us that much, because we came to that point where we shook off those ideas. We shook off those labels. I said, I just came to the point where I said, oh, so they've labeled us the common man. We too, we agree and we accepted it. I'm not common. Common means you can find it everywhere and it is cheap. I'm not common.
And so you started to do a radio station, a radio program.
Radio broadcast.
Oh, yes, Uncommon.
Exactly.
And it was called Uncommon Success, huh? What?
I know it was a Success Power.
Success Power, yes.
Success Power.
Yes.
Now, thank you for bringing that in. Look at that. I started that February 1995. Who was I? Who knew me? What did I have? When they gave me the bill for the first quarter, I almost fainted 120,000 naira then for both production and airtime. I had no clue where to get the money from. I wrote it on a sheet of paper and put it on the wall in my bedroom. I was praying about it every day. But what would I say? The money came because I imagined myself doing it, and I took practical steps to do it. Power is first imagined. It was not the government that gave me the idea to go and do. You know, the most important things in this life are things you do for yourself. Government will not breed for you, will not eat for you, will not go to the toilet for you. And those are the things that matter the most to your existence on this planet. Wow. There's power in self-leadership. And it is when you use that power. That's the amazing thing. Remember what Jesus said in the parable of the talent. One person used the talent and doubled it. The other one went to hide it. Then Jesus said at the end, take the talent from that guy that didn't use it, give it to the man that has 10. Then he established the principle. But to him that has, more will be given. To him that has not, even what he has will be taken away. Power has a way of concentrating. So when you refuse to use yours, the bad people will continue to have even more power. Wow. So I want to say to you, before anything happens, just shift your mindset today. See yourself become another person. A powerful person, influential person. Then don't start from that abstract level. Just do the one thing that you can do today. Take food out and go and give your neighbor that doesn't have food. Help somebody this week. Do something that is not for yourself, but that is for the public. Clean the gutter. You'll be amazed what it will do to you after. After some time, you will now become surprised at the results you begin to get, how people will begin to listen to you. So I go on radio. It's an experiment. I'm not even sure of what to expect. The first broadcast, it is boom. Nobody knew the name before. But then the next day, people traveled. People came down to our office. One journalist said, I had made up my mind to commit suicide. But I spoke on persistence. He said, because of what I said, I'm not going to die anymore. A lady came by the office and dropped 1,000 naira in the envelope. She said, I like what I had. I like what I had. I wanted to continue. Put down money. The family gave me 150,000 naira. Okay. So, and I've been at it for 25 years now. I would never have known. So if you then see me, you check on social media, Twitter, I have 1.2 million followers and so on. It's because I imagined first and then I took action. You too, imagine first. Stop discouraging yourself. Stop making yourself weak and powerless. Then just try something at a small level. You'll be amazed at the result. That you can expand the result with time. Light must displace darkness. Let's do it.
Wow. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. That's not off mic. That one is drop mic. You know, there's off mic. There's off mic generation. This one is drop mic. Drop mic, Dr. Sam. We love you. We love you, man of God. We love you. Thank you for who you are. Thank you for the love that you have. Love oozes from you. It oozes. There's no one who listens to you and really doesn't just feel the love. And I really want to say thank you. You know, thank you for all that you've been. Thank you for all you've done. And please extend my greatest regards to my sis, my ally. She's the one that she knows every time I want to reach Reverend Sam, I know how to just, I know she's my open door. Yeah. You know, Tara and I love Pastor Nika to bits. Guys, I'm sure people out there want to just say thank you to Pastor Sam. I can see the thank yous going on. But more importantly, please, if you can you just put out the most important thing that you've heard today? What's the most important thing that you heard Reverend Sam say? I mean, so that he knows that his time has been very well spent talking. You know, we've got thousands of people joining us and that have joined us at this time. You know, thank you for the commendation. Just share one thing that you've heard today that if I can read out only 10 of them, you know, and Reverend Sam, you know, there was this thing that we developed at some point in time that you loved so much. In fact, when I brought it to Daystar, and it was this 10 value creed, you know, and he said, look, if you're going to be a great leader on a daily basis, make a positive impact on everyone you meet and everywhere you go. Just leave people better because of what you said, what you did. Leave places better because of the fact that you got there. Number 2, be a solution provider and not a part of the problem to be solved. Just decide that. Number 3, be a role model worthy of emulation. You decide to be the example that you will want to see in the rest of the world. Number 4, be your best and give your best to all you do, particularly what you're naturally good at. Number 5, you do the right thing at all times, regardless of who is doing the wrong thing. Number 6, you value time and make the best use of it. Remember that the best day of the week is today. Not tomorrow, not Wednesday, not Tuesday, not Saturday. Today. The best time of the day is now. And if you can just make the best of that time, then number 7, which you alluded to, care and show respect to all through your words and your actions. Number 8, consciously build a great legacy starting now, today, and every day. Number 9, you live a life of integrity and honor. And number 10, you make your family, your nation, and your God proud. And you know, for those who would like to be able to get this 10 lifestyle creed that we just put out there, all you have to do is just send an email to mypersonalcreed@gmail.com. My personal creed. Somebody can help me, please put that out there. My personal creed, no space, MYPERSONAL, then creed, CREED. My personal creed@gmail.com. You don't even have to send anything with it, just a dummy email. It will auto respond to you with the electronic version of these 10 statements. Start by saying it every day for, you know, and I always say to people, say it, share it, show it. If you say it twice a day, and you begin to, you know, find ways to demonstrate it, you would soon be amazed the way that your leadership potential will just begin to rise. And you will begin to do all the things that Reverend Sam has spoken to. Man of God, thank you so much. You know, as a final word, guys, please remember we have an online masterclass called the Speak for Gold. It's for speakers, leaders, and influencers. And basically what it does is it helps you. We are currently running one now. We're on day 5 of that masterclass as I speak. So nobody can join this, but it's next month. It's going to start sometime around the 1st and 2nd month. So if you're interested in it, please click on the link in my bio. You can begin to pre-register for that masterclass right now. It's called Speak to Lead. Leaders use the power of their voice to make a difference. Not talk is cheap, but talk is everything you say that brings no change. Speak, don't talk. When you speak, you use creative words to bring about change. Influencers speak. Leaders speak. Speakers speak. So the idea is you want to learn to come and see, how do I find my purpose, find my message? How do I empower my message so that it brings about change? But, you know, so if you want to, please go to the link in my bio, click on it, and then you'll see how we can begin to pre-register. Reverend Sam, the Lord bless you. God protect you for our generation. Our generation will continue to honor you and honor the Adeyemi name for generations to come. You have already been a blessing, and we are so grateful. God bless you all. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Great regards.
Thank you so much for having me. Okay, Nika and I love you and Tara dearly.
Thank you.
And I commend you. Before you go, FD, I commend you. When you stepped forward to contest for political office, you did something huge there. You did something huge, just daring it. That's enough. If enough people would have that confidence, imagine themselves powerful enough to step and just try, because we need that first step. I know some people, you know, said, he can't win, so what's the point? And then now voted for who they really did not desire to lead them. And I say, excuse me, that's cowardice. That's lack of conviction. That change never happens like that. Stand for what you believe, even if it's not popular for now, and so on. But stand for what you believe. You don't know what God will do with that little step that you're taking. So I just want to say thank you, you know, for modeling at least the taking practical action to create change. And we pray for you too. God will bless you for all those investments that you have made in Jesus' name. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, we'll release you. Thank you so much.